Hagyod itt?
Ja, nem kell, elbírom.
Na, csak.
And now we're going to talk to Dániel Botos from Hungary for the film Something Must Happen. So first off, like we said, congratulations on 3 nominations for Best Short Film, Best International Film, and Best First Time Filmmaker. If we could talk about that first time filmmaker, that was shocking to me when I finished this, when I saw that was on the nomination list. Can you talk about any challenges or new surprises that came with doing this for your first time?
First of all, thank you so much for the selection and the nominations. The whole crew and the cast is very happy about it. So thank you so much for that. This was the first film I sent to festivals. But during the university years, I made shorts, but I decided not to send them to places because I wasn't satisfied with them. So I had previous experience in making films. But this was my biggest project, of course, as a thesis project. It had a lot of challenges. Also in Hungary, you don't get a lot of budget for a thesis film, so it was challenging in many ways. But in the end, we found that these challenges actually made it better in some sense because we had to get creative to make the most.
Very cool. Were there any specific adaptations or changes you made to creatively work around those budget restrictions?
Yeah, for example, I wanted to shoot this film in the countryside because I wanted to have an isolated house in the woods, but we couldn't really afford to travel the whole cast and crew to the countryside. So in the end, we had to find a place near to the city, kind of assemble it with the forest, so it looks like it's actually next to it or inside it. So that was one of the biggest challenges, actually.
The device that you have the film within a film, sort of the footage of the main character Kara. Can you talk about when did that come to you? How did you invent using that as a structural device?
So actually, I was writing a ghost story. And in the meantime of the writing, one of my very close friends committed suicide. And it brought a very personal level to this ghost story because I decided to kind of make this ghost about this person. And with my friends, we had this game we used to play, which was a kind of adaptation of a psychological game when you have to imagine that you walk in a forest and the forest means your life, etc., etc. And actually, this is how I decided. It was actually shot on one take. We just actually asked the questions to the character, and then she answered. I really wanted to involve this in the film because I thought it was really important, and I think that this game, even without the explanations, because we actually have it recorded, because there is a meaning to each part. Like the forest means life. And then the bear means someone important in your life and how you react to it, etc. So there are actually answers to these symbols in this story, which she's telling in the DV footage. But I decided not to put them in the film because I thought it was more open in this way that everyone who is watching it can have his or her own explanation or answer.
You talked about how some of that real life experience and with your close friends affected the story of the film. Did that affect when you were creating the friend group of characters, the rest of that ensemble? Is that drawn at all from people in your real life, or how did you create that group?
First of all, I started to work from real life characters who were around me, like my friends mostly. But at some point of the process, we started to distance them from real life, so it was easier to develop the story because there was a point where we got a little bit tangled up. At some point, to clear that out, we started to put them at some distance and look at them as characters and not as friends. But some of them were based from among my friends. Yes.
One of the things that I was really impressed with is the balance between you have this sort of tragedy and this mourning story, but then there's also these romantic plot lines going on between some characters. Can you talk about working both of those simultaneously?
Okay, so the idea behind that was that even in these very challenging times, like when a tragedy happens with us, life still goes on. These two characters actually find each other in grieving, basically. Like that's how empty space kind of, I don't know how to explain this in English, but yeah, like that kind of makes a vacuum and it just brings two people together. Yeah, so that was the idea behind the little love story. Yeah,
it works beautifully, especially the bunk bed scene. I thought that was really interesting because you don't see a lot of scenes where like characters, they aren't necessarily looking at each other, and the framing in that one too with the ghost like sitting upright was almost jarring. Can you talk about the sort of blocking and staging of that scene?
well, actually, you explained it pretty well. Like that was the idea behind to how to create a romantic scene without people looking at each other, and then at the end you can have this epiphany of one climbing down and getting together.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the idea behind, to have this absence of eye contact, and also to put the ghost, like you can see her throughout the whole film, but for me it was very important that she witnesses this moment of her friends getting together in this grieving, because I think that's a very important point from the ghost's point of view. Yeah,
the camera like lingers in the forest for a bit after our characters leave. Is that like an intentional choice?
Yeah, that's intentional. I mean, there is two reasons. One reason that we needed some image for the cast list, but no, that's
Gotcha.
not the actual. No, the idea was that like the forest is a very important symbol in the whole film, and for me to just have even not a sharp but just a blurred image of that in the end, empty without any people, was very important, because I think that, yeah, the forest is like really kind of in the center of the whole film. It actually resembles Kata, the ghost's like inner life, basically, and inner feelings and everything like that. And I just really wanted to just let a piece of that in the end, just empty.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Please tell us a little bit about the casting process.
I found Kata first, the main character. Actually, I met her in a contemporary dance class I attended as well. And I was looking at her because she has a very intriguing face. I was sure that I will want to use it once in one of my films, but I never knew which. And when I came up with this idea, I just knew that, okay, so now I have to look for her, because she's the perfect face for this role. So I looked her up and found her. And then basically I just started to collect people who I could imagine would be her friends in this fiction. And some of them worked together before. It goes for Lotzi. He worked with Kata before, like those two actors worked before together, but not in film, but in theater performances. The rest haven't worked before together, as for my recollection. Yeah. And most of them are amateurs and not from the film acting industry.
The couple that wound up sort of having the secret get together, did they just have this magical chemistry right off the bat?
Yeah, they were meant to be a couple, so I knew it when I was casting them. But we did a lot of rehearsals to find that chemistry, which I'm really happy to hear that went through the film. Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself through the making of your film?
Yeah, well, for me, I think I learned that that I just have to trust my intuition and concentrate on my actors, because in my previous works I always got lost in the visuals and the sound and all the technical stuff. And then with this film, I started to put my focus on actors and on what I actually want to do. And yeah, this was a very important lesson for me.